activated. Your weekly football fix kicks off now.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube and TikTok.
Good evening and welcome to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast with a live stream. Myself, Ritchie and Kev. First off, I'll do the introductions. Kev, how are you? You okay?
Oh, good, mate. Monday, got through it. Pat on the back. Let's move on for the rest of the week. You? All good,
Yeah,
mate?
good. Yeah, pretty good, yeah. Unfortunately, we've got to talk about football, so that's going to give us a downer now, isn't it?
Damn it.
Richie, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, despite the weekend's result, as Kev said, Monday's done and we just roll through the week now and wait for the next one.
Of course, looking back at the weekend, unfortunately, we have to look back and talk about the game against Burnley on Saturday. I'm sure most would have expected a win at Anfield, but given the indifference the way Liverpool are at the moment, in another way, it wasn't a surprise. It was a draw. It could have been so much better. I mean, first half they were really good, but does that sum up the season? I'll start with you, Rich. You know, it's like there's such inconsistencies in this side, isn't it? Up and down. You get to the point that we think, right, we've turned the corner, we're okay, kind of thing. But then it's just draw after draw at the moment in the Premier League, and it's just not quite getting there, is it?
No, it's not really good enough. At 4 draws, I think, in a row, and it's not great. It's been, apart from obviously the opening few games of the season, it's not been the best. It's certainly not been the Liverpool that we saw last year under Slot. It sort of is typical, isn't it, of recent performances. Yeah. I was really confident last year that if we went into a game and was not very good first half, we were always so much better the second half. It seems to have turned around this year. We played really, really well first half. I thought we could have had a couple, and we came out second half worse, and that's been the way recently. We seem to have poorer second halves than first halves, and if we don't kill off the game in the first half, there's always a chance that Burnley or whoever can come back in and score a goal, and they did. They had one shot on target all game. Fair enough, it was one hell of a shot, but it's as fun as it sounds. Like, even though they had one shot on target, they had a 10-minute spell where it looked like they could score, and then they did. And people maybe could have seen it coming. Konate was lucky not to put the ball in the back of his own net, so it could have come a little bit earlier. But yeah, it's frustrating. No, it's not nice to be booed off by your own fans, as Virgil said, but at the same time, something's got to change because the performances aren't good enough.
So, Kev, obviously I know you go to Anfield quite a lot, being a season ticket holder, and we talked about it on last week's show, sitting there through it. It's possibly a different vibe you hear to what we see on the TV and the highlights, etc. So what was your take on it all on Saturday?
I think Ritchie summed it up very well. It's a team that is lost identity. It's a movie before the Jason Bourne identity starts. This has just lost it completely, and you can see that in the second half. The amount of counter-attacking that we've done, and that counter-attacking of the Red Arrows was redundant in certain aspects because they didn't know how to do it. Now, I'm not saying that that's the be-all and end-all, but you could see us hit the self-destruct button, as we always do in these games. No matter how well we played, at times there was, I agree with Rich, there was times and elements that Burnley were going to have their 5-10 minute spell, but you always knew that there would be an opportunity for them to have a score as long as it kept at 1-0. We had our opportunities. We missed a penalty that we should have scored. The only thing I take from the game is how good Flo was during the game, and that I'm trying to take the positives because it's so easy to go on the negative. The issue I've got now is that this is now hitting our home form a lot worse than what it should do. We're champions of this league for a reason, And we shouldn't be getting upheld by teams like Burnley, like Leeds, like Sunderland. These are teams that we should be absolutely winning. And if we would have won those 3 games, home and away against Leeds, and the draw against Sunderland as well, there's 9 points. We look a little bit more healthier than what it does. There's understanding, it hasn't gone well, but we're in a good position. This is a lot different. The press isn't as good as what it used to be. They don't know how to press. It's as though it's a zonal press rather than a man-to-man press. Yeah. And that is leading into big gaps in the middle of the park and behind, in between the strikers and the midfield. If you look at those 2 lines, relatively most of the time, there is a big, huge gap to what there is between the defence and the midfield. And those second balls in that midfield are just getting lost and wasted. And with 2 or 3 passes, you can play through it. And it's very frustrating to watch at the minute. And it's as though we're trying the same thing over and over again. And what I don't like is that the options that we have for certain positions at right back and at centre half are taking players out of the normal positions to fill those places up, which is not right. And that's not on the manager, that's on the actual directors and the CEO of this club, who are actually saying that we are allowing this team to go in with being short in certain areas. It's not good enough. It's not good enough for Liverpool, and it's not good enough for this manager. This manager has to find a way out of this, and I can't see it myself. I don't know how it gets. I don't know how he keeps his job, because if you're getting booed at home, there'll only be a certain amount of games that you'll be given before the hierarchy starts taking over and going, right, we will take this into account. It's frustrating. It's so frustrating to watch. And when you're leaving, I left livid on Saturday. I couldn't believe that this team is looking as bad as what it is, and are so wasteful. And you can't manage in like individual errors, but we have lots of them across the pitch. We have one who's asking for 300 grand a week to stay at the club. I just don't get it. But we move on, don't we?
So, in our little chat we've got on WhatsApp, I know I put in a piece, I think, the other day about Mark A going to Manchester City, which has now been confirmed. And I think, Ritchie, you put in, he's looking for like 300 odd grand a week. Should we pay that? Now, Konate is asking for the same. Now, if I had to put it on the table there, I would say Gay is a better player than Konate, personally. And he's got Premier League experience, and he's been there, and he's kind of captain the side. I think he'd come in and be a rock solid for Liverpool. And what I'm finding is we were linked with Semenyo and we were linked with Mark A, and both have gone to City. And I'm fuming about it, to be honest. Even if one of them would have come, we've got these targets supposedly that we're interested in. We all know about Mark A in the summer, and they missed out because of Glasner, and behind the scenes at Palace, maybe more than Liverpool, maybe pulling the plug. But it's come to January. He's gone for £20 million. Now, in Premier League terms, that's nothing. That's nothing at all. It's a drop in the ocean. Why are they missing out on these players now then? Is it because of Slot as the manager? Is it because of the way they play and people can see they don't want to come? Or is it just because, City are a more attractive offer at the moment?
I think, again, there's 2 ways of thinking about it. I personally think they're not particularly willing to spend the money yet, whilst there might be question marks over a current manager. Because as we've seen so often, especially with clubs like Chelsea and Manchester United, where you go in one direction but a new manager comes in 18 months later and you're going in a different direction. Therefore, these players aren't particularly maybe what a new manager wants. Why anyone wouldn't want Mark Gahey, I don't know. But
yeah, this is it.
Maybe they're just saving the pennies for a summer splurge if things don't quite work out for Slot. And I do think this season has been accepted that it's not a Premier League challenge, so therefore top 4 is a must. And let's see as far as we can go in the FA Cup and the Champions League. But the real money spinner is that top 4, maybe top 5. And Liverpool look like at this moment in time they are going to get that. And maybe that's because the teams around them aren't actually performing very well either. You know, it looks like no one wants to win the Premier League. Arsenal and Villa had a chance to, you know, go increase that points gap over City after what happened at, you know, 12:30 at Old Trafford. Nobody wanted to do that. You look at the top 4 race, Chelsea's starting to pick up steam under a new manager. Might be that bounce, same as Manchester United. But I certainly wouldn't be putting my house on saying that either of those teams will get top 4. So I think whilst we're still in the hunt for it, Slot's job will be safe because that's where the money is. And then, you know, Edwards, Hughes, etc. We'll have a look in the summer. But for me, I think it was just maybe, yes, Mark Gahey is quality. Is he £300,000 worth of quality? I'm not sure. He signed a long-term contract. His contract alone, I think, is 78 million. You know, well, Hughes and Edwards prepared to say, well, actually, if a new manager comes in the summer, that's quite an expensive investment if the new manager doesn't want someone like him. Again, I would have I've been saying for years and years, you know, I would love for Mark Gahey to be at Liverpool. He's homegrown, he's a leader, Premier League experience, probably England's best centre-back. It was a no-brainer for me. Semenyo I can sort of understand because with attackers, you know, that does come down to manager profile. Certain managers like certain attackers. So maybe that's why. But at the same time, we need a centre-back. You know, to really get that top 4, it would be criminal if we do not get a centre-back, even at least short-term, just to cover, you know, the Konate, Van Dijk and Gomez, just to even cover that. Because if you play Gravenberch in there, which I know he's spoken about before, Endo in there, well, you're taking away one of our best midfielders in Gravenberch. You're playing Szoboszlai at right back, a penalty miss aside, and the back heel aside, 2 bad weeks for Szoboszlai. He's been our best player of this, you know, on the pitch this season.
Yeah.
Two mistakes aside, obviously. You can't have him playing at right back when he has been our most consistent and best midfielder with probably Gravenberch. So I think again, the mind boggles why Ramsey isn't trusted. I think his comments, Slot's comments, if you hadn't seen them, was very eyebrow raising. I don't think that's the type of man management we expect from Liverpool. Again, I don't know. I don't know what's gone on there with Ramsey and Slot. The fact that, you know, he still won't play him, and the comments that he made. But yeah, I think to go back to your original question, I just think the board are being clever with their money and perhaps not investing in a squad that maybe, just maybe, a manager in the summer or a new manager in the summer might not want moving forwards. It's the only logical explanation that I've got, really.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube and TikTok.
Kev, do you agree with what Ritchie said, or have you got a different opinion on that?
No, there's nothing you can add to that, to be honest. But if you look at Gay, our chance and opportunity was well gone by summer. If we didn't get him in summer, it opened the door for everyone else. And it enlightened the likes of a City that if we're struggling coming into January, we could offer a money and a figure. If you look at the money that was offered, only 2 players are on that at Liverpool. That's Virgil and Mo. So there's no way we are having an argument with Konate about paying him 300 grand, and then at the same time we bring in a player for that amount of money. So I get that. I understand with Ritchie that he is homegrown. Another one from Chelsea. That Cobham Academy is unbelievable. The amount of it produces, honestly, it's staggering. The amount of players that they have at their disposal and are all around the world, and the money that they get is unbelievable. So, you know, credit to Chelsea in one sense in what they produce. We had an opportunity. It didn't happen, and we move on. I agree with Ritchie. You can't be having Endo. You can't be having these players in midfield playing out of position. But we've done it all season. We've been playing square pegs and round holes every single game this season. And that's because we have no identity and no formation that this manager is successfully willing to drive in and be confident in, that will allow him to attack in the way that he wants, with the attacking options that he has at his disposal, as well as being defensively minded. He has left, we've been left now with a Gomez that is a quaver crisp tackle away from being out for the rest of the season. You've then got Konate, who's playing Donkey Kong at the back, which I don't think anyone's got the joystick or the joypad to actually find out what the cheat code is to get him to get back to the levels that we know he can. Because at the minute we're seeing someone along lines of a Mahab Sako or a Lovren. I don't want any of these to be in and around and amongst us and allowing us to be going into the later stages of competitions with this as our squad depth. It's unbelievable how it baffles me why we are allowing it. It's not because I don't think Slot wants to bring anyone in. We need a centre half, so we need to bring someone in. It has to be done. It doesn't have to be Gay. Gay should have been done in the summer, if we're being perfectly honest. And that money's still there. But whether it's achievable for the other targets that we're looking at, are they achievable in January? No. It looks as though we were thinking that a gentleman's agreement was going to help us with Mark Gay. I'm sorry, but if someone's offering you 300 grand a week and to play regular football, you're going to snap the hand off.
Yeah.
We're being incompetent, and at the minute, it's what we're seeing in the transfer windows, what we're seeing on the pitch. It's just lackluster, very lazy, very. I don't know any other adjectives to use or whatever, because it's just getting to the point now where you're thinking, are we seriously putting our challenge and all our eggs in one basket that Joe Gomez is going to be fit for the rest of the season and be able to stand up? The downside of it all is we had an Italian lad, Leone, and I am absolutely livid that he actually got the ACL done, because I think he would have been playing by now with the way we've been playing, with the way Konate's been playing at times. But again, it comes down to it. If you haven't got a formation, you haven't got a squad team, it's difficult to get players playing in the way that you want, because it then becomes a scramble as to what you're doing. And you can see that when we're defensively minded. We're defending like school kids in a park. There's about 4 players running for the ball. Why are we doing that? Why aren't we playing in these defensive positions and allowing just one person? There's times where we've had 4 or 5 running at the one player. And you're thinking, one quick pass and there's 4 of you right out of the equation straight away. So I don't know what the answer is, but what we're seeing and what we're doing on and off the pitch isn't the answer at the minute.
It's mad because you're looking at like last year, the squad hasn't. I mean, obviously, the squad's mainly changed in attack, hasn't it? But Wirtz is absolutely, as we said, I'm hopefully we'll talk about him more. But he's now starting to hit the ground running. He looks like, and we all knew it. I know he was getting pelters at the start of the season, but anyone with a footballing brain said give him until at least January, February, March time, because it's a new season in a new team and in a new league, right? Not many Germans come over and adapt straight away. Kai Havertz is still trying his best to adapt to the English game. So it was never going to happen overnight. But now he's starting to fire and he's starting to look absolutely brilliant. Hugo Ekitike, probably alongside Szoboszlai, the most consistent player for us this year. So actually, our attack doesn't look as bad, but it's the levels of drop off from the likes of Salah, Van Dijk, who's not been at his Rolls Royce best, McAllister. Robertson, maybe Bradley. I know Bradley's got injured. But anyway, all of these players, like Kev said, we had an identity last season and it was different from Klopp. Klopp was gegenpressing. Last season, we were very calm and we were very much more possession-based football, but we could still defend. With Klopp, we had that pressing system. So we had some identity. This year, with very similar players, you could argue, maybe not so much on that left-hand side, because I do think Diaz was electric on his day. We haven't got it. So something has gone wrong in the space of 6 months where we've lost all of our defensive attributes in terms of how we play, how we defend. Yeah. Our pressing attributes is non-existent. And as you said, and this is how we have got caught out so many times, 4 players running from the ball, or you've got no one actually in midfield because you're almost playing like 2 number 8s and a number 10. So of course you're not going to have anyone in the 6. Do you then get exposed? You're not telling me that because we don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold, the whole world has gone to pot for Liverpool Football Club.
That's how it seems, isn't it?
Yeah, but
at the moment,
that isn't
the
case
whole thing's
either.
gone wrong.
But
Yeah, that's not the case either.
But you look at his substitutions that he makes. Very, very much all eggs in one basket. And at times, what's the formation?
When
Because he
Chiesa
goes
came
so
on,
attacking.
where's he playing?
Exactly. And it gets to the point where, I understood it against Fulham last year when we were down to 10 men. So you do a Fergie type of thing. You move Gravenberch to centre half, and you upset their apple cart as to go, oh, what are they doing here? And it works in certain games. That's our reliance as our plan B. Because when the plan A doesn't work, he throws all the eggs in one basket, and then scratches his head as though, well, why didn't that work? Because there's no formation, there's no fluidity. And if you look at this team at the moment, at times we are fluid, but at the times when it comes in the final third, we're not surgically picking those passes out like we used to. We are actually just lumbering a ball in the box with the hope that someone will be on the end of it. The amount of times we cross balls on Saturday and Etikite or no one's in the middle of the part in that middle of that goal says wonders to me. It's the irony of it all is that the one person who would be on the end of it is actually injured, and that's Isaac. So it's and the only time we put crosses in is when he's not there. So there's certain things that I haven't seen or witnessed this team get any better since that Palace game, which my last away game, and that was diabolical on the day how we played. And I haven't seen us play with any kind of consistency or any kind of fluidity that gave me confidence. I'm seeing individual players shining the way I expect them to. In times of depression is what we're in, and a bit of not confidence, you see players growing this time, and the likes of Flo, the likes of Etikite, the likes of Szoboszlai. But again, they're not immune to individual errors. We've seen it with Szoboszlai all season. From the first game against Bournemouth, where he does a stupid pass that ends up giving it to Semenyo, who ends up going on a big run. He's done it in recent weeks. He's done it on Saturday. There's times in this game where we are lacking confidence in certain positions. Gravenberch is frustrating me because he's not doing the half turn and running forward with the ball. He's playing more tentatively and inside himself, which is then affecting us when we're actually trying to move forward. You see players slowing the game down more than what we used to. You hear the Liverpool fans shouting attack, as though we've got to tell them what they need to do because they've lost that kind of fluidity and moving forward with the ball. We get so far with it, and then we end up going back to Konate. And
we had a corner on Saturday. We had a corner. He must have been doing your nutting there because he did my nutting. Passed it back. Ended up going back to the goalkeeper. Didn't even go in the box.
Yeah. What's the point, isn't it?
As soon as that short corner was taken, I knew there was three of us around us all said at once, guaranteed this ends up with Becker or with Konate. And what happens? Lo and behold, it goes back. And this is the thing that annoys me. It's frustrating at the minute because it looks as though we've got no pace in the team. When we go forward, counter-attacking teams, doesn't happen anymore. People used to fear getting a corner against us because we just fly out. You see that now, and it's half-heartedness, if anything, and there's a lack of confidence, for whatever reason. And as Ritchie struck on it, look at McAllister this season. Yeah, been non-existent.
Yeah. Luckily, Jones has stepped up. I think Jones has been brilliant in recent weeks.
I've got three things I'm going to pick out, so we'll quickly cover them. The first one is Konate. Second one is Wirtz, and then the third one is going to be Slot, right? And individuals on each. So the first one, Konate. Are you surprised then, as league champions, he's won the winners' medal last year. They were great in defence with Virgil at the side of him, obviously Robbo and Trent, fair enough. Are you surprised in the last year of his contract, he hasn't put himself in the shot window that much? He's actually made himself look worse. You would think he'd be on top of the world on cloud nine. So Rich, I'll ask you first, can you understand why his form's dropped off that much?
No, and you can ask the same question for quite a lot of them this season. Something isn't right. I don't know what it is. Maybe someday someone will write a book about it. But I don't know. It's one of those that his form isn't anywhere near it. He does make you a bit nervous now when he's on the ball. And, like I said earlier, if it wasn't for the reaction time of Alisson Becker, he would have scored an own goal. Yeah, 100% he would have scored an own goal for that. And again, I sometimes don't know what he's going through his brain when something happens. And I think he's a really good defender. I used to say, Liverpool's 2 centre-backs are the best in the league, and I included him in that.
Yeah.
And the amount of work he had to do for Trent, you would have thought this season would have been easier for him because he doesn't have to move across when Trent came into midfield, so he would have to cover for it. He was tremendous at doing that. I give him all of his flowers for last season. I thought he was phenomenal. And I think in the summer, if people were going to say, right, he's going on a free, oh my gosh, there would have been outrage because he was one of the best centre-backs in the league. There's probably only with Gabriel and Virgil van Dijk in that class. But for this season, for some reason, that form has dropped to the point where Madrid were interested in him. And then we hear that they've dropped their interest, so he must be kicking himself as well. I mean, the form that he's in, bless his heart, he'd probably miss if he tried to kick himself. But at the same time, it's one of those that if he can get back to those levels, he's elite. He is absolutely elite. But he's not the only one. Something this season, his head isn't there sometimes. And I don't know why, I don't want to be overly critical at all because, like I've said, he's been a brilliant player. I do think he's been a great investment for Liverpool. Anyone who wins the league title with Liverpool will have my eternal gratitude. But there is something, not just with him, there is something this season that isn't connecting, that isn't right. And he is just a microcosm, really, of what's going on inside that squad.
Like and subscribe to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on YouTube.
Gav, your thoughts?
No, I think summed up by Ritchie quite well. The only thing I will say, last season, he didn't start the season. It took Jared Kwanzaa coming off at half time that gave him a kick up the butt. So it kind of makes me think, is it because of the lack of competition he's got? There's no actual competition for him to be in that place. I think what's shown up this season, especially, is the way certain teams will allow him to have the ball, more so than anyone else. City done it really well. I kind of wish we had Joel Matip, that kind of player who could come out with the ball and run with the ball and get these players out of the low block, because City wouldn't do that. And that's the problem you've got with him. He's fallen off. He's set the standard of where he should be. And we've only seen it once this season. That was against Real Madrid. That was his best game. Other than that, that's in isolation into all the other games that I've seen him play. He has his moments where he likes the physical battle. Okay, so you'd fancy him against Marteta. Marteta's made him look like putty in his hands. I know the physicality of what Marteta brings, the size of him. It's not on for Ibu. He was out of place, out of touch, and didn't look as though he could lay a hand on him. And that's been his problem this season. He's doing stuff now that he hasn't been allowed. He's not good at. So he's coming out with the ball a little bit more. He's getting more of the ball than what he should be given. But that comes down to the way we're playing at the minute, because you guaranteed who will have the most passes in the game will either be Virgil or it'll be Konate. That's a given with the bookies at the minute. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm putting my house on at the weekend or against in the Champions League. That's the problem you've got with him, is that he's one-dimensional, and you can tell that in certain games, and he's getting isolated the way he is, and he doesn't. It's not the same, and it's a shame really. But he can't look in the mirror and say to himself, "I'm worth 300 grand a week," because he's not. He's not. I think he's nowhere near that. I'm sorry. Last season he probably would have been given that, and you could say, yeah. I think it's a bullet missed. Myself personally, the way the drop off is, and I agree with it. There's nothing you can put it down to, but as I say, I can only go from what I see, and it's not good at the minute. And I'd like, if he stays, he stays. But I'm like Ritchie. At the start of last season, I would have gone hell leather with anyone who thought he was going to leave, and I'd be outside Anfield knocking the door down because he's been that good. Now, it doesn't bother me if he stays or goes. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Okay, second one we're going to pick out. Ritchie, you've already mentioned him. Wirtz seems to be finding a little bit of form, finding his feet a bit, scoring a couple of goals as well lately. Is that because Salah's been away and he's had more kind of freedom possibly? And do you think it would work back with Salah in the side? Now he's finished in the AFCON. Or do you just think he's just literally starting to settle now?
I think he's just starting to settle. And I'm hoping that when Salah comes back, he's going to be even better, because the commentator actually made a really good point. It's not necessarily always Wirtz's fault he hasn't got the assists. It's the person on the end of it not finishing those chances. Yeah. As Mohamed Salah would have said, last season when he could have broken the assist record, he did everything that he could. But it's just the person on the other end who's got to score the goals, which sometimes, which is why sometimes with assists, you can only read so much into it. But no, I think he hopefully will become an even better player because, as we were saying about the break, the counter-attacking football, Salah is really the only one with pace. I know Ekitike is not slow, but he's certainly not as fast as Núñez. Now, I'm not comparing the two because Ekitike is a better player for me. But Núñez had pace. When we're breaking, we had Diaz on the left, Núñez through the middle, Salah out right. You had a choice which way you go for the breaker pace. Yeah. We don't really have that without Salah. Gakpo isn't anywhere near as quick as Diaz. So I think Salah coming back in the team will give Wirtz another outlet, another place where he can play the ball. I don't think necessarily, I know that we've seen Wirtz out on the right-hand side, but really he again drifts in. So I don't think it'll affect, hopefully, his position too much in terms of where he plays on the pitch. And it certainly has looked like in recent weeks he's got freedom to roam, and that is how you play flow. You give him that freedom to roam. You don't just say you're on the left, you stay on the left. He has to find those pockets of spaces like David Silva did, and playing between the lines and find that space, because when he's on the ball, there was a moment where he went past a couple of the Burnley defenders like they weren't there, and there was 2 or 3 of them all around him. So I'm hoping that Salah actually will be able to get on the end of some of these passes, or Salah and Wirtz will work in tandem with each other, running off each other, playing 1-2s with each other. That's what we need. We need someone to be playing 1-2s and getting behind the line, running onto the ball rather than wanting it at feet. And that's what Salah does do best. He would rather run onto the ball than get it at feet. I think that's where Isak is best as well, running onto the ball. Ekitike is, I think, comfortable whatever he does. If he's got the ball at his feet, he'll flick it around someone. But no, Flo for me, anyone, like I said, with a footballing IQ who had watched him, not just for Leverkusen, but actually if you watched him, for Germany in the Euros, that you've got an absolute player there. He's 22 years old. And as I said, it was always going to take a while for him to get a new manager, a new team, a new system, a new house, a new country, a new league. It's going to take somebody time to do that. Very rarely do people hit the ground running from different leagues. And again, not being horrible or biased, but the Bundesliga is a level or 2 below the Premier League, in terms of week in and week out. And that press and the intensity of the Premier League is different. And it would have taken Wirtz a little bit of time, to get used to that in the game. But thankfully now it's coming. And, I'm so excited when I see his name on the team sheet. I think he is actually the one, and perhaps Hugo, where I think, right, that's who can make something happen. That's the magic on the pitch. That's your Gerrard, that's your Suarez, that's your Torres, that's your Salah, that's your Mane, that's your Firmino. They're those sort of players you look for. So yeah, I can't wait. I'm really excited to see Florian Wirtz, and I don't really see many people now questioning his price tag either.
No, okay, fair enough. Kev, what's your thoughts when you watch Florian Wirtz, at Anfield, or even an away game? Do you think he's starting to settle now?
I just wish we didn't. No, honestly, he has been absolutely unbelievable. You've got to remember he's a kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's come to a new ball game, which is 100 miles an hour, week in, week out, and it's tough.
Oh, we seem to have lost you there, Kev. Gone. We really wanted to listen to you as well.
He was just getting in the rhythm there. He was just getting in the Wirtz flow of the game, wasn't he?
Wasn't he? Okay, well, while we're waiting for Kev to reconnect, obviously, what I think is exactly what you've been saying, Rich, is the fact that he's a young lad, and it takes a lot to come to another country and just go, right, I'm going to be on it from day one, etc. And I think he's now starting to settle down and just be comfortable playing in front of the Kop, which for a lot of players is actually quite maybe a scary thing to go. You know, the world famous Kop, he's got to play in front of them, and I think now he's kind of settled into a bit of a groove, and hopefully that can only mean from here onwards for the next 5, 6 years, 10 years, hopefully. Do you know what I mean? He's going to keep going, and then he's going to be a much better player for us and improve, because eventually Salah is going to move on, whether it's the end of this season or end of next. And he's probably going to be the main focus of the creation, I would say, in the side then, if he's not starting to be already. So I'd like to think this is the baby steps of this happening, and we're starting to see him starting to flourish. Are you back in now, Kev? Are you okay?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It's a little bit quieter, but yeah, we can hear you. So if you want to go back to talking about Florian Wirtz, I don't know if you finished or not.
I was mid-flow. It was doing me head in. No, honestly, you look how good he is, and the ways you can tell though. You can tell with these players, and it wasn't the fact that it was just adjustments. And you look at what he's doing. You know, you're in little bits now where even the coaches were saying that they thought he was going to come out and do loads. Do you know what I mean? And set the world alight in the Premier League alight. And that's because of what he's doing in training. You see it with some of the passes. That ball he played to Gakpo, honestly, with a little bit of swaz, a bit of right. Honestly, he's starting to grow in the game. And it shows 5 Man of the Match awards in the last 7 games.
Yeah.
He's starting to, and there was a chance in the second half when he nearly scores the second, when the goalkeeper comes out. He's already took about 4 players on or 5 players on. His intricacy passing around the box, as well as technical ability to find those passes in those small spaces. Very hard to see anyone who can do that as well in our team. The only one who could do similar was probably Thiago when he was with us. But I agree with Ritchie. You need to have him in the space. He may start on the left, he may start on the right, but he ends up, and you see him during the game, and you can see that with his confidence. He's growing in the fact that you see him on the left, you'll see him on the right. I think it's kind of benefited with Salah being away in the AFCON. I think it's got him to grow into the game. He's got a great relationship with Etikite in their passion that you see against Barnsley, the way that's starting to form. He showed that in the Community Shield as well, if you remember rightly. He's got, if he does that with Salah as well, honestly, it's not like we've signed a Grealish at the end of his career and, I don't know, a Michael Keane. We've signed quality world-class players, and it is going to take them a bit of time to gel. But again, it comes down to the formation. But I'm fortunate, I'm blessed that I see him more often than any, and it's great just watching the young lad play, because it gives me a bit of excitement and a bit of a spark in me when I do see him, because it's the positive I look at rather than relying on the negative that we can easily do. But flow is just starting to literally flow at the minute. Do you know what I mean? It's great. It's great to watch, and it's great to see the young kid enjoying his football, albeit in a side that's trying to find to establish themselves. But no, credit to the lad.
I would be scared for the opposition if this team can click and he's in it and he's doing well. Then I think I'd be quite frightened for the opposition, to be honest.
The LFC Total Red Football Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts from. Also available on your smart speaker, or you can watch us on YouTube.
Right, the third thing I was going to pick out was Arne Slot himself. Now, I know I mentioned it to you two off air. There's a clip come out of him talking to Curtis Jones, is now going mad on social media. Some people saying he's having an argument with him about what position. Others are just saying that's football. If you look during a game, you know, the coach, manager, whatever, etc., is talking to players all the time. I'm not going to say one or the other's happening, but there is a suggestion out there. You know, he's very fixed in his ways. We can see that he never really plays Chiesa, never plays Ngamora. You know, if Gakpo's fit, he'll play him. He's very set the way he is. And I'm just going to ask, and you know, simple yes or no. You can be longer, whichever. But is he, in a way, narrow-minded And because of that, is he starting to lose the dressing room? Do you think, Rich?
I think Klopp was more stubborn. I think Klopp was very stubborn. And I don't think that's a bad thing. You stick with what you know. It's got you so far, and you trust what you do. There's nothing worse than flip-flopping. Do I think he's lost the dressing room? I think if he has, that's the writing on the wall. And it's always a bad thing to say, isn't it, in football? But it's easier to replace one man than 22, and it's never nice if the player's down tools. There's no excuse for it.
Okay.
But sometimes that is what happens.
Yeah, if he hasn't necessarily lost the dressing room, do you think there's cracks appearing that could lead to that?
Yeah, but I think that's with anything though. Any job and any, especially in sport, any time where you're not at the levels you expect you are, you get frustrated, and then those frustrations either spill in with you or with other people. And football is one of those games that if someone's not doing their job on the pitch, well, they need to be told. So, I like I said, I haven't actually seen the clip. I haven't had a chance to go on Twitter today. So if Jones needed telling about the position, or he was unsure about the position he was in, that is a conversation that these two people have to have. As I said, I can't see it, so I can't see it within context in terms of that. But I think if he has lost the dressing room, then like I said, the writing will be on the wall. And there's not too much more he can do about it. I think that will be the end, and we just. You then just move on with who the next person is. But I don't like to see it. I would hate to think any Liverpool player downs tools. We crucify those who do in a Liverpool jersey, like we've seen Trent do, like we've seen Coutinho do in the past. And rightly so, they get hung out to dry because it's an honour and a privilege to wear that red, and anyone would, give up years of their life to just, walk on the pitch at Anfield once. So I would never like to see that, especially... if it happened to us. But at the same time, if things aren't quite connecting and things aren't clicking, again, how long really do you give him? I do think, yes, Alonso's available. Yes, we know Enrique's available in the summer. I don't think we're a club that would just snap aside. I think if we go out of the Champions League, we've got 2 big games coming up. And then if we don't get in that top 8, could have a tricky knockout game. I think if that happens and we go out of the Champions League early, I think he's gone, especially if we go out, obviously, at the group stage, which I think would be really difficult, the league stage where you're in that first knockout, etc. Then he's definitely gone. I think that'd be difficult for us to do that. I think that's probably the earliest that he'll go. If not, they'll wait until they get top 4, top 5 at the end of the season and make a decision then. Yeah.
Kev, your thoughts on Arne Slot? Obviously, again, you see him quite animated sometimes on the touchline. And I'm not saying he's lost his dressing room. I'm saying you just read things, and of course everybody's trying to look and see, is that right? Is it wrong? Is everything sweet behind the scenes? It's just not working on the pitch, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So what's your thoughts on it?
First and foremost, he's given me one of the best days of my life in May. One of the few managers that has done, and I thank him for it. But when you're in a high pressure job that he's in, and you're in that territory of a team that is not pre-Klopp, where it doesn't really matter. We'd like to be in a couple of, realistically, we'd like to be in a couple of title runs, but we're not going to win it. The fact that we've won it twice and we've won the European Cup sets us in on that elite table. So come to an elite club comes with elite pressure, and that comes not by sitting in and trying to get an unbeaten run. To say it comes down to performance and how you're adapting your style. I think what's difficult is he with his Dutch mentality and the way Dutch people are, he isn't going to give people the flowers that they need. So when he comes out with his comments about Bradley, I read it into the fact of him saying, well, I'm laying a marker down. At the minute, I think there's better options there. So it sets... I like to see the flip side of it, of, well, I've set my stall open here. I agree with what Ritchie said about it, and I totally agree with that. But there's part of me that thinks that is he trying to set a marker for Bradley to go, look, I don't think you start, but prove me wrong in a way. I may be wrong in that. I may read things differently, but that's the way he comes across. He's not as stubborn as Klopp. I agree with Ritchie with that. I just think he's got no plan B. I think he has one style of play, and that style of play, once it's found out, he's finding it very difficult. We've played Palace more than any other team, and yet they seem to have a cheat code against us that we can't find, and that is a problem. That is a problem with the way he sets the team up. Take nothing away what he done last year, but this season it hasn't worked. If he's perfectly honest with himself, and if everyone is, what's our starting 11? What's our best 11?
Yeah,
because everyone
he doesn't know.
come up with a different answer to that. What's our best formation? Now, that's what we're looking for. The problem you've got as well is, which is very rarely that you can change. Once the fans start booing in that ground, that sets alarms automatically with everyone else. And let's have it right. If that starts, that's when our hierarchy start worrying. Because if you start losing the stadium at home and the home performances aren't meeting the requirements and the standard that has been provided before you, then it's pressure that is you got to find a way and a formula of dealing with. I hope and pray he can. I think the board would love it. Ideal solution is he sees the rest of his contract out at the end of the season and we part ways and we go, thank you, but it's not for us for the next season or two. I think performances in it are key. I think he could be gone by Bournemouth if performances don't improve. I don't want to. I agree with Ritchie. I'd rather wait until the summer myself. But if the home crowd are doing what they're doing already, and that's already in January, I can't see it lasting much longer before he's actually gone. I don't want an interim manager. I don't want a Gerrard. This is not an
Stevie.
No, this isn't 2012 where we needed to get Dalglish back. It's not that bad. It's not that severe. It's not that heroic that needs. And let's have it right. Gerrard in the Premier League, Emre proved how much of how woeful he is with taking a side from 16th into the Champions League. So that just shows you what I think about that. It's great he can sit on the punditry. As long as he does that, I hope he replaces the ambassador in Michael Owen. That would be great. I will not be calling on the arms of him. I will be wanting someone else. The favourite at the moment will be Alonso. And that's because of his formations. The fact that he's worked with Wirtz and Frimpong will also see, well, we will get the best out of them. He's got a formation and a style of play that will allow us to free them. They've got he's got a pressing game that, is similar to a way that a Klopp and last season under Slot would work. So I can understand that. He's not my first choice. My first choice is the best of the best, and that has to be Luis Enrique for me. And that's because the PSG formula and the way they play against us was the style of football and the brand of football that I would like us to play and have, and I would want him to be as our manager. That
for me, it's sorry, I was just going to say, just really quickly, like for me, Enrique, it's his character as well. He's got the Liverpool character. Exactly. He's the man manager. He's a coach. He's got heart. He's got passion. He's got drive. He's got everything. He has the character of a Liverpool manager. He does remind me of all of the Liverpool greats, and he is someone who the fans would instantly adore. I'm with you, Kev. If I'm honest, I would wait for Enrique, and I would be a bit cautious with Alonso as well. Like I'm not highly convinced.
No, I'm not, and I haven't been. But that being said, I always, and the good thing about, and it was mentioned to me on Saturday with one of the lads who we talked to, the Real Madrid questions are out of the question now. So if he comes to us, there's no Real Madrid waiting in the foreground or anything like that. So you have that distraction. It's already been, it's gone. They're not going to come back for him. He's a coach that would fit in with the style of football that we and the brand of football that we have. We saw it with Leverkusen, but I don't know. There's something about Alonso. I like I totally get why people want it, and I'm not against it. If it happens, it happens. Do you know what I mean? But nothing you can do. But I can understand why everyone's going for it. The fact that he's available, I think the fact that people want to change, people are seeing us. I think the gamble of waiting for Enrique could be too long, because
I think it's partly, remember, it's the rose-tinted glasses. They look at Alonso from when he played for us and go, he was a fantastic player. He'll automatically be a good manager. And it's not quite. He did well at Leverkusen. I'm not saying he didn't, but it's not automatic that it transfers to every team that you manage. Then, is it?
But people have got that for Gerrard though, and have it for years. And I don't get it myself personally, because I haven't seen the manager that I've seen. I think anyone can go up north or up north of the border and win a league. That's not exactly hard to do. It's not difficult. He came down here and didn't set the world alight. Then went to Saudi, didn't set that alight. Got a nice healthy paycheck from it though. But he talks well, and he talks the Liverpool spiel that you hear, and that then builds people. Oh, we'll bring him in as an interim. The club's not on that sinking ship that it was in 2012, where it needed the likes of a Dalglish to come back and to get the identity and the ethos of the club back. We're not that. It's not that needs to change. It's just a change in style of play. A manager that's inflexible with the way he works, and it's not working, and he hasn't found a formula to get the performances matching what these players are. You're not dealing with mediocrity. You're dealing with world-class players that should be performing week in, week out, and he's not getting the best out of them, whether that's playing in their normal positions or out of position. It's not right. It's not the Liverpool way. So we don't need that call of arms. I'd have him as an assistant if it needs to be, but I don't want him as a manager at our club. It doesn't need that. I just don't see how that happens. You'd be naive to think that we haven't already spoken to Alonso already, whether that's in a sensitive way or in an option of we want you. You know what I mean? And we're going to hear more of this as the weeks go out. And the best thing for Sky Sports is that this plays right in their hands, and the media now will have a drama of the Liverpool manager drama, and it'll be all over the keeper. And we'll have more videos of Curtis Jones and other players falling out with the manager. And, it's the way it goes. So, we're in for this for the ride. I think if the performances don't improve and the intensity doesn't there, and we get defeated in our next two games, I think there could be an opportunity where the club will go, well, that's enough's enough. But if those boos, I'll be honest, if the boos continue at the ground, that will dictate when this will happen. And if that goes further into the season, there'll come a point where the fans will dictate when the club should pull the trigger if they need to. I'm hoping in the meantime we can find a way of getting to the end of the season and seeing where we are then, and dusting ourselves down and establishing, do we move on? The good thing is there'll be no severance pay because his contract is up at the end of the season, so it works well for everyone. Another thing that needs to be looking over the shoulder is Hughes and Edwards, because their contract's up the following year, so things have to improve from the board from that level as well than what we're seeing now. Well,
I know we're going to quickly touch on the Marseille game before we finish, but an interesting stat. I've just come across it now, funny enough. The last 17 games that Liverpool have played under Arne Slot are actually worse than the last 17 games under Roy Hodgson. It's like, and that says it all. He was one of, classed as one of Liverpool's worst managers. Now, it's only by a fraction, but technically, yes, he is just under the level of where Roy Hodgson was in the last 17 games. And we all know how poor that ended and what happened, obviously. And it's a different time. So I'm not saying it's an exact thing, but that's food for thought. And let's see how it moves on with that.
You're listening to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast.
As I said, the last thing we're going to talk about is obviously Wednesday's game. Marseille against Liverpool in the Champions League. They're just outside Liverpool. They're in ninth place in this league format that they now do. A win, a point, whatever, could get them back in the top 8. If they end up in between 9 and 16, they're going to a playoff game. I mean, they finished top last year, lads, and they ended up playing PSG. And it was like, that really shouldn't have worked like that. So I'm not even worried if they finish 8th or even 9th. It's kind of like, it's not the end of the world. They're not out. But, how do you see this game going? Ritchie, I'll come with you. It's just, they could do with a win, couldn't they?
Yeah, I was just looking at the table actually, and yeah, you're right. Finishing first has it doesn't matter that 1 to 8. That 1 to 8. No one really understood how the seedings worked and things like that. How we came top and unbeaten, and got drawn PSG in the next round. Beyond me, because there's no that last season. I don't even know if it's the same rules again this season. I expect that it is, but that it didn't work at all. So yeah, Arsenal, who are sitting top. It doesn't really matter as long as, an Arsenal will now qualify in that top 8. I know goal difference, they're basically going to.
Yeah.
We just need to finish in that top 8, especially with our squad thinning the way that it is. We could do without 2 difficult games, 2 high pressure must win games in knockouts to qualify. So, yeah, we're on 12 points. I think we've got Karabag at home, haven't we, as our last one, which I'm so glad it's at home because travelling away there would have been difficult. Very glad it's at home. I do think Marseille, they're certainly not to be taken for granted, and I think we will have a really tricky time over there. They're not too bad either, and they're going to be fighting for points. They're currently 16th. They're going to want to absolutely solidify their spot in a knockout stage.
Yeah,
and they're on 9 points. They're actually only 3 behind us. So they beat us, and depending obviously on the margin, they'll go above us. So it's definitely not a game to be taken lightly. I do think the timing of it probably could have been better when we were a bit more in a rhythm and a bit more in a flow. So yeah, it's certainly not going to be any. It is going to be an issue, and it's not going to be an easy ride, as it shouldn't. It's the Champions League. And we should be expecting that. But that being said, go out and ask any Liverpool fan, should we be winning this game? Not do you want to win, should we be winning this game? Absolutely we should. And the pressure will mount more and more if we don't.
Yeah, do you echo that, Kev? It should be a win?
It should be. It should be a win, and it should have a performance to match. Anything less than that, it's just mounting more pressure. It's going to be difficult. De Zerbi's their manager, isn't he? For Marseille, is it?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I think it is. If it is, it's going to be a struggle of a game, and it's difficult anyway. It's difficult for the fans going over there, feel for them, because it's not a nice place to go. Marseille, it's up there with Italy, certain parts of Italy, like Napoli. So it's going to be tough for the Liverpool fans. Could be a tough watch. I hope we can find a win. But again, if he doesn't win, even if he wins and the start of football, that could still not be sufficient enough. It's mad. We should be finishing in that top 8. I know Arsenal this year will play all their home games if the qualifiers first. I think that's different this year. I think they've looked at that and thought, yeah, well, we should have done that last year. So that's the change that they have made. But
the irony of that being that we won away and not at home.
Exactly. But our away form isn't that great at the minute. So, and it's a worry when you're playing a De Zerbi side that, De Zerbi is.
Oh, I think your mic's gone again,
Cool.
Kev. Oh, there you go. Are you back?
It's all right, mate. Yeah, I'm back. But it's look, it's going to be difficult. I want us to get 3 points. I hope he does get the 3 points. I hope we have a performance that makes us happy. But the one thing I don't want is coming away with a victory and injuries.
We shall see. We've got Marseille, as I said, on Wednesday, and we're away at Bournemouth at the weekend, which will be a tough game. I really hope we can get maximum points from all of it. Right, we have come to the end of the show, lads. I want to thank Ritchie and Kev for giving their opinions, obviously, on Liverpool FC, like we do every week. We'll be back next week to review, obviously, what happened in Marseille and what happened against Bournemouth away from home, and any other news by then. Will we have a change of manager? Will the players know what they're doing on the pitch? Will Konate play a little bit better? We'll review all this next week. We'll see. But like I say, thanks to the lads for joining. Thanks for anybody who's watched. You can obviously watch us on YouTube or on TikTok or you can listen on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Apple, etc., wherever you get your podcasts. So please like and subscribe.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time for more LFC Total Red Football Podcast.